Hi, I'd like to share a few thoughts with you about building healthy student rapport. And this is a result of a period of reflection of my experience as an adjunct instructor, and over the years, considering exactly what those classroom experiences look like and how those classroom environments develop. I think to begin with, if we're going to talk about healthy rapport, we need to be starting with respect. At the very basic level, respect is me, the instructor, acknowledging the value and worth of each student that I teach. In other words, when they come into the classroom, I acknowledge that their life experiences are different from my own, and that because of that, there are some parts of what we're going to address in class that I will not be able to address from my lived experience, but they can. And so they can teach me things that I didn't know before. Because of that, and acknowledging their value and communicating that respect, we're able to build an element of trust in the room and in that environment, establish a communication between us that is open, honest, and clear. I've been thinking about this too, and another way that we consider building healthy rapport is acknowledging the difference between worldviews. Now, I know that when I teach a class, that my worldview is going to be different, likely, than all the students that I teach, and their worldview will differ from mine. My worldview is a result of all my experiences, the ideas and beliefs that I've adopted over the years, and basically it frames everything that I use to interpret what I see and understand in the world. My worldview is like a pair of glasses that without them I can't see things clearly, but through them I interpret them. Now, it is possible that my worldview is different, and it may err in some places, and it's clear to me that there is no one default worldview. There are many worldviews, and the students are in the process of developing that. So as an instructor, I need to acknowledge those differences and encourage the students that I teach as they learn and develop their own worldview based on the beliefs and principles that they choose to adopt into their lives. So understanding that difference between worldview not only helps me to communicate with them, but it also helps me to continue that relationship of respect and trust at a different level. And I think one of the other things that we need to establish in the classroom to build healthy rapport and to establish a classroom that's a very effective and powerful learning place is to have fun. Now that may sound silly, it may sound non-academic, but when I started teaching a fundamentals of math class, which is developmental math, I began to recognize that there was a sense of fear and dread in many of the students as they came into the room, and most of them said they hated math. Well, I decided that we could do some things at the very beginning that might be a little fun, help us to relax, and over time, maybe become more comfortable with the topic and not dread it so much. Well, I believe that that has and can have a very powerful learning effect on the students. I'll give you an example. One day in this math class, we were working through some problems as a group. The class was telling me what to write on the board, and I would do just what they said. They would correct me when it was wrong, and then we were walking through these steps of this particular problem. From the back of the room, there was a voice that gave the answer, that called out the answer. And because we hadn't worked through all the processes, I looked around with a surprised face and said, "Oh my goodness, that was wonderful. How did you do that?" And this student, with a grin from ear to ear, said, "It's in the back of the book." Of course, at that moment, the classroom erupted in laughter. And to be quite honest, I did too. I thought it was quite funny and amusing that this student had figured something out that I hadn't. And I just remember that moment, because at that moment, whatever tension existed in the room over the topic, that seemed to go away. That moment of levity, that moments of fun and laughter, seemed to break down some barriers. And so I believe that's an element in building healthy rapport. I want to just kind of wrap this up with a story about how powerful that really is and how those moments can change the classroom environment. I was teaching a class, Accounting 1, I believe, and part of the strategy in that class was to have students work in groups. We had 4 groups in a class, and each group was given a set of problems, and they worked through those problems, and then one at a time these students would come up and they would put their problem on the board, and they would explain it to us how it worked. And so one by one the students around the room came up, they contributed to the problem, they described what they did, they told what it meant. And then one particular student came to the front of the room and she put her problem on the board. And after she put her problem on the board, she explained it, went back to sit down in her seat, and on her way back, she said, "I feel smart." And I've been thinking about that ever since. See, I think that is exactly what it means, or what it results from healthy rapport. That is, there's this trust, there's this enjoyable atmosphere. And when those barriers are gone, and when a student can relax and have that confidence, wonderful things can happen. And that's why I teach.